On this week's episode, we introduce our new AI co-host before diving into the challenge of vendor support in small districts. What's working, what could be improved, and how can your company better support the small district tech director? Thanks for listening. Live from the NTP studios, this is the K-12 Tech Talk podcast. This is episode 224. I am Josh, tech director here in mid-Missouri with 3,600 kids. With me are these two knuckleheads every week. We just spent a lot of time together this summer. Chris, hello.
Hello.
Mark, we spent a couple days with each other down at Lake of the Ozarks at the MidwestTechTalk conference. We did a couple sessions. Keynotes were good. Food was good.
Yeah.
We got to see David.
Easily my favorite conference of the year.
Yeah, it was a good time.
All the people are really good. It's always so much fun to hang out with the Midwest districts because everybody's so nice out in the Midwest. We learned that like many, many times. I kept saying how nice people were. And then Sarah's like, my wife, she's like, we're in the Midwest, right? And she reminds me that the Northeast is a little bit rude.
You got to see beautiful countryside, the Amish area of Missouri.
Yeah, it was a good time. Beautiful drive.
And then you ate some good barbecue.
Very good barbecue. Thank you for that recommendation.
Mm-hmm. So I guess the big thing that came out of Midwest Tech Talk was Matt Stieff and the winner of Distinction Tech Department Award of the Year. Chris, do you want to tell us the official name of that award?
Midwest Tech Talk Excellence Award. Pretty cool to get to go through the submission process with them and figure them out. The committee gets to do a cool rubric over all of those schools that submit, and they came out on top. So they got like a cool trophy that was hand forged, and they get like $1,000 in stuff for their tech department.
That's awesome.
Did anybody win the Nintendo Switch? Because when I left, you had done multiple like giant competitions to see if somebody could win the Switch, and every single time you just said no and sent them back to their seat. Was that just your ploy to get the Nintendo Switch for yourself?
No, so like Midwest Tech Talk was game show themed, like Press Your Luck, Price is Right. We even did some Wheel of Fortune kind of vibe. So we had like a Plinko board, and I really thought we were going to give it out like day one. Didn't go. We did. Day two was like a spinner with just yeses and nos, and you could win a Nintendo Switch based upon that. The guy hit no. So at the end of the conference, we just make sure that we're going to give away everything. So we just draw tickets and give it away. So like the people that went around and visited every single sponsor, which was like 50 plus sponsors, we drew one winner from that group of people. And that guy was fist pumping. Like he was like pumped up.
That's awesome.
We gave the second one out to somebody else, but really funny. At the close, Swank, who does movie licensing, not a sponsor of the podcast, but a sponsor of Midwest Tech Talk and their own K-12 Tech Pro. They had given a prize to give away, and they had picked the person. So all I'm supposed to do is say like, Swank is giving away this projector. It goes to, I think the guy's name was Jonathan. So I announced that. There's no Jonathan. So I'm like, and usually at the close, like it's just the attendees left, that made it till the end. So I cracked some joke about, well, Jonathan's not here and Swank's not here. So what do we want to do with this projector? And then the Swank guy raises his hand in the back and he was like, I'm here. And the crowd, foot and mouth by my doing, because I'm leaking it out that we do whatever we want at the end. So we're laughing. I was like, oh, Swank, what do you want us to do instead? So we drew a card. So then literally like 2 minutes later, the two guys, shout out to Cole and his technician coming all the way from Vermont. So I draw a ticket and that number is not there. And I'm like, oh, it must be those Vermont guys. They took off early. And then Cole's like, we're still here. So in like a span of 2 minutes, I really put my foot in my mouth, which was super funny. So anyway, we gave away 2 Nintendo Switch 2s at our conference.
All right. I guess before we get into the news, because we got some news, Chris, you want to hit a sponsor or two?
Sure. PowerGistics, they rep Midwest Tech Talk, and they sponsor the podcast and K-12 Tech Pro. They actually gave away one of their really nice device carts. We'll put a link in the podcast description. They pay attention to the details. They know how students unload a cart, how students load a cart. They paid attention to how it works in the classroom. So if you're in the business of trying to figure out classroom management for your devices, check out PowerGistics. And let's talk about Lightspeed. Lightspeed Systems. Go to lightspeedsystems.com/products/lightspeed-signal. I'll put that link so that you don't have to write that thing down. They have that new Signal product to help you, with device management, right? But actually like to check signal and to see what's going on, to do health management. So check out Lightspeed.
I guess the other big thing out of Midwest Tech Talk was the Debbie bobblehead.
Yeah, we have a tradition, our committee. We're three people in with a bobblehead. Josh, you have one. Eric, the intern, has one. Debbie, who's a big part of our committee, we made a bobblehead out of her, and we hid it amongst the sponsors. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that was fun. I have the complete set on my desk. Mark, you want to lead us through the news real quick?
Yeah. So let's start with some AI news. Canvas. If you are familiar with Canvas, not to be confused with Canva, but Canvas, the LMS, just announced this week that they're going to be integrating ChatGPT. So coming on the heels of all of Google's announcements with Gemini being embedded right within Google Classroom. Now, if you are using Canvas, you'll have ChatGPT embedded in there. You'll be able to have teachers generating lesson plans, doing some kind of quality of life type things where they can speed up their lesson planning stuff. So, man, everybody's going back to school with their own AI chatbot.
I mean, let's say the unwritten thing, like that's completely in response to Google Classroom's inclusion of Gemini.
Well, I mean, you couldn't have built it in like 2 weeks, so I'm sure that they've been working on it. But yeah, I mean, I think you would have expected to see AI embedded in an LMS by now. So now the two major players have got one.
And I'd like to give a quick shout out to all these companies coming out with things like literally right before we come back to school so that we don't have a good chance for figuring out professional development and really get it in our ducks in a row. Shout out to all you guys.
Yeah, awesome planning, right?
I guess this is just bad timing for me to introduce the new K-12 Tech Talk podcast AI chatbot.
Yes.
Hi.
Oh my gosh.
I'm your new
What is
AI
this?
co-host. Just call me Fortinet.
Yeah.
What is her name?
Forticate.
Forticate.
Is that it?
Like Catherine.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
she
yes,
should have
yes.
said Forta Catherine. Not that. That wouldn't be as confusing as what I thought I heard.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty bad. Okay. We're going to work on a different name for our AI
Drop the
chatbot.
T,
but
add
yes.
an N. That's what I heard.
Yeah. Anyways, next up in the news, PowerSchool CEO has announced that he is leaving. He has been there for 10 years. Pretty impressive run for him. Obviously, the last few months has been tough. So he'll be stepping down. And the former CEO of Aspen Technology, Anthony Pietri, is joining. So that'll be an interesting thing for him to take over a company that's in obviously a tough spot in the last 6 months. And hopefully we can see some new work coming out of the new leadership at PowerSchool CEO.
Yeah, that's interesting. You can't ignore the timing and what's happened in the last year, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and unfortunately, he's only going to be remembered for the stuff that happened close to the end of his tenure, and of course, everyone will be talking about the reason why he left is due to the incident.
I mean, he has led that company through going public, going private again, multiple acquisitions. So
lots of change and somewhat of a recovery as well through the incident. So
yeah. Yep. All right. Next up on the cybersecurity front, there has been a major, and when I say major, I mean more very, very concerning vulnerability in SharePoint. So if you're running SharePoint on premise, that's the important distinction. If you are SharePoint in the cloud, everything has already been patched, but there is a vulnerability that it's being exploited by a bunch of different hacking groups, some of them out of China, that Microsoft has warned about. There is a patch available, but initially Microsoft had recommended just taking your SharePoint, on-premise SharePoint servers offline in order to protect against that. So
It's good when they say just turn it off.
Yeah. Or disconnect its connection to the outside world was the major connection. So I have not heard of anybody being impacted negatively or losing any sort of data, but it might still be early to tell. So we'll see.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting. I didn't get the invite for CISA had a all hands call, I guess yesterday or day before yesterday about this. MSISAC had one as well. I didn't attend either, but it would be interesting to see some of the statistics if people were actually leveraging that in the wild.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Forticate. I assume they would have to be for them to be talking like they are about it. Like it's so serious. Yeah. It's so serious. You need to take it offline. They would have had to have seen it in the wild.
All right, back to the national level. We've got a couple of articles that are very related. So we first have 24 states that have filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration and the Department of Education over this funding freeze that we've talked about multiple times. The states are saying that they have approximately 1.2 million adult learners and 55 million student learners impacted by this funding freeze. So it's a very, very concerning thing. The Office of the Budget Management is saying that they found evidence that the funding was used to promote left-leaning programs. Meanwhile, 10 GOP senators and 42 Democrat senators have called on the Office of Management and Budget, OMB, to release the funds, saying, hey, look, there is no radical funding and programs being used for this funding. It's just harming students. So hopefully we'll see this funding released soon, but you've got a lot of districts that are returning to school absent quite a lot of money. So we'll see what happens. This is, going to be Linda McMahon's first big test as the head of the Department of Education. See if she can get through this.
A couple districts around us have made some Facebook posts with infographic data about what those cuts mean to them, putting dollars and cents to a district budget as far as what's been withheld and what services those impact. And I've seen probably 2 or 3 districts that have posted that. I had a conversation with our PR guy this morning. We both thought that was a fantastic way to put real meaning behind what that is. Because you hear nationally, it's X dollars nationally. Okay, but what does that really mean locally? And I think it's great for districts to be posting that information.
Yeah, a few people have asked, is there a direct impact on K-12 technology? And yes and no. There are some grant funds that could be used towards technology support. But overall, I think you've pointed out from a few of the districts that have posted those announcements, the funding drop is so significant that there's going to be a lot of other programs that need to be funded from other places of the organization, and that's where the most danger can happen.
Yeah, so those budget discussions in March just got even more difficult if those funds are still frozen 6-9 months from now.
Well, and with all that going on with the federal funding, this next article is around a fake phishing page that has been found spoofing the Department of Education's grant management site. So g5.gov has now a spoofed page, or has had a spoofed page, trying to get credentials from people who use that. Obviously, if you're receiving grant funds, the ability to log in to the real g5.gov website and change maybe your payment information is pretty high. So people are very concerned about that, especially with all the attention going on.
Good thing nobody had logged in yet, because there was no money there.
Great joke, Chris.
How'd you know I was going to tell a joke? I feel like this is just Mark saying whatever he wants to say without it being him.
Yes, this is Mark being his passive aggressive.
I don't think so.
Passive aggressive. Man, Florida Catherine, you're pretty passive aggressive.
Absolutely.
This AI thing is great. I could probably just step out and let her take over.
Sure.
All right. Moving on, another story from the Department of Education. They have issued guidance on the use of AI in schools. This is really more specific for grant funds. So if you are doing an AI initiative or maybe an ed tech partner, they really want to look at integrating AI literacy into teaching, looking at professional development for educators, expanding AI in computer science education, which is I'm really excited about. And then using AI to personalize learning and boost efficiency. So if you are looking to bring AI into K-12, the Department of Education's guidance is going to be what you need to look at in order to receiving some of those funds.
Can I have a hot take here for a second?
Go for it.
Where does the DOE get off right now? Like,
Wow.
they've taken away, they've depublished or pulled down, however you want to say that, every other piece of guidance that they've released over the last X number of years from the Office of Ed Tech. All of that guidance, it has disappeared. They've intentionally removed it all. DOE is going to go away, right? That's a talking point. DOE is holding all this funding. That's actual dollars being withheld. Oh, let's come out with new AI guidance about our grants. You know what? No, just no.
Okay.
That's
Tell us how you really feel.
What's Kate's opinion on this? Kate, what's your opinion?
Those darn teachers.
I see.
I can't.
Mark is in control of the control board. Chris and I have no idea whether or not he's typed up these phrases ahead of time or just
My hands
hitting
are
a
right
button.
here. I'm not doing anything.
Okay, go on to the next story. Well, may I take
That's it.
May I take the next story?
Go on, brother.
It's been a rough week for celebrities, and if you're a child of the 70s or 80s, like some of us are, it's been a rough week. Theo from the Cosby Show died. Malcolm Jamal Warner. Chris was confused on who that was. Or you're probably too young for Cosby Show, aren't you?
Yeah.
Chris is like 10 years younger than me. Ozzy Osbourne,
Yeah.
the Prince of Darkness, passed away.
Yeah.
And today, probably the biggest hit to most males that were born in the 70s and 80s, Hulk Hogan passed away. The fact that Ric Flair outlived Hulk Hogan is just mind-boggling to me.
Rest in peace, Hulk. We'll miss you.
I do wonder, maybe Fortinet can answer this.
Please.
I do wonder if the Department of Education, if the Department of Education is going to shut down for a couple days so all of the WWF staff can go to the funeral.
That's a great joke, Josh.
This is amazing.
Aggressive.
Oh. Yeah. Yep. Wonderful. That is it for the news. That's
Rest in peace,
all I got.
Hulkster. All right, Chris. Is NTP a sponsor tonight?
Yeah, that moment of silence was brought to you by NTP.
Okay. Are you going to talk about it?
No, that was it. It was silence.
Oh, they were sponsoring Hulkster's moment of
Yes.
silence. Okay. Mark, do you want to get into the poll or question that you posed over on K12 Tech Pro?
Yeah, why don't we give some background on this one? So, over the weekend at Midwest Tech Talk, we had, I thought was one of the better sessions. There was a lot of great sessions there, but one of the better ones or more well attended was, there was a very high level, very knowledgeable engineer from Google who attended and gave about 3 hours of sessions on like very hands-on how to use the admin console. And I just kept hearing people coming out of that session like, this was great. This was great. And people were really, really thrilled to have be able to meet somebody from a company as large as Google, and B, get direct support and even break bread that night when they came out and hung out with folks at the after parties. And I think it was really cool to see a lot of districts that don't necessarily have that direct contact to a company as large as Google being able to interact with them. And we started talking afterwards about, well, what are some ways that smaller districts can get support from their EdTech partners? And we put a post on K12 Tech Pro around, hey, for the small districts out there, what works when you're working with some of your vendors who that may not have all the resources to support you, but what are some of those tips and tricks? And there was a lot of really good ideas. And I noticed coming from a large district to a very small one that there's definitely a very big difference in the level of support that you get. And so we thought tonight, let's have a conversation about, for our EdTech partners and vendors out there, how can you better support small districts, or who's out there doing a great job already in supporting some of the small districts, despite it being a bigger challenge. So
I'll just start with the comment that I made to you before we hit the record button, Mark. Seeing the difference at your large district to, your experience with vendors and pick your big vendor. It doesn't have to be, our friends at Google. It could be anybody. Your ability to have a dedicated team or the ability to pick up a phone and reach out to someone quickly in a moment of need was a stark difference to what I think Chris and I have experienced at smaller districts of you're going through the chat bot, you're going to email the ticket, you're going to, follow typical channels, calling TAC for a network support issue. You don't have those dedicated teams. And I think hearing you talk and just understanding your experiences when you were at Boston is very different for small district. Yeah, I would say that's my big observation there.
Yeah, and there are pros and cons. I'm not saying that everything's rosy with large districts and the support we get from vendors, but you're right. It is easier when you're going through a technical issue. It is easier to escalate and to get somebody on the phone, and you often have a dedicated rep. And I would love for every single district to have that, but I think we all recognize too that companies don't always have the resources to have dedicated support for every district. So
there's a huge cost that comes with that. Yeah. So one of the main topics offered by folks over on K-12 Tech Pro is product simplicity. Companies need to understand that smaller districts are generalists. They're not specialists. So like I don't have a person on my team that only deals with our parent pickup and drop off system. Like we're all doing everything. Like all this week I've been working on network switch issues in our expansion, arguing with electricians.
Have you tried rebooting?
No, that was a different voice. Who is that? Who's that lady?
That's Kate.
So yeah, I never know if I'm like this morning I was troubleshooting a conference phone issue and then going to work on the network and bringing up security cameras the rest of the day. We're generalists in small districts.
I laugh sometimes when we move to something new and they have you fill out like the contact page, like who's the technical main point of contact, who's going to be the project lead, and there's like 10 spots, and it's just me.
yeah.
Or when we jump on a call and they say, "Is anyone else joining?" No, me.
Yeah.
That was a theme. And there's a couple of quotes too. Somebody had said just to really focus on your product and simplifying the product and making it easier to use so that you don't necessarily need to have a specialist or rely on customer support. So I thought product simplicity being the first tip that we got from districts was great. And even things like, can you do auto rostering through Google SSO and Clever and Please, those kinds of tools really help districts with implementation and support when you have them going through standardized integration partners.
Yeah, so we've any new vendors, we are making sure that they can either support a Clever interface or an interface with via OneRoster from Infinite Campus. That alone has saved a ton of time with custom exports and imports and all of that stuff.
Yeah. We are doing a new vetting and approval process for all district supported apps now. That'll be communicated with our faculty and staff when they return. And that's one of the questions is this going to be auto roster, SSO, Clever, Google? They have to pass through that or else we're not going to choose it as a district supported app.
And I don't think enough people understand the complexity of building out custom CSVs to do things. And, sometimes we would always have a tough time where it would be done through Clever, but then the vendor would need additional spreadsheets for additional types of data. And that just brings everything down. So I would imagine when you are the one person doing it all that technical complexity just makes it harder for you to roll out different things.
Infinite Campus as a example too. When we moved to Infinite Campus, there was a lot of assumption about that we had a tech department that could do SQL scripts and a tech department that was all about working with data. And your small school does not have that. They don't have those positions. They don't have those skills. And that needs to be thought of. And even less than my size school district are all those schools that maybe it's just a school district with a consultant in it. Or maybe it's a school district that it's a teacher with a couple hours in their day
Right.
that's supposed to be for technical things.
All right, let's move on to the second item that's been talked about over on Pro about relationships with vendors. Mark, do you want to start this one?
Yeah, this is a big common one, and I saw a little bit of this at the big district level, but I think the small districts really it definitely came out in their conversations. But rep turnover is very hard for small districts, and it sounds like they're going through it a whole lot more than most districts. One person said rep turnover is frustrating. Districts want stability with their reps as much as possible. It's going to allow us to do more business when we trust that the rep is going to be there. When you do have a rep turnover, you're now starting things over. You've got to reintroduce everybody, reintroduce them to the district, and you never really get that kind of deep value that you get when you have consistency. So rep turnover was the biggest thing that small districts are challenged with.
Yeah, I don't know a tech department that hasn't had a vendor reassignment issue. Like I'm going to pick on CDW for just because it's the top example. We had a rep for a long period of time was super awesome, and then good reps get moved up right to larger accounts. So he became a rep for other districts. So we get the new guy, and I think that type of turnover is really, I mean, we all understand somebody leaving a job and turnover related to staff turnover.
Yeah.
But artificial turnover, meaning reassigning salespeople to larger accounts or performance measures, whatever, that's when it gets really frustrating. Like Billy Bob is still with the company. He's just not my rep anymore. And if I had a really good relationship with Billy Bob, that hurts because, it takes time to establish those relationships, and if they just get moved to a different account on a whim, it's silliness.
Yeah.
Did you see much of that turnover when you were still in Boston?
Yeah, I mean, I think we still had issues with turnover, but companies are a whole lot more sensitive about the relationship with a bigger district, and so they're less likely to do just what you said of kind of rotate people through and move them to different places. When we did have a turnover of a rep, it was usually because they moved to a different company. They left the company. I can't remember too many examples of where somebody was just reassigned. But yeah, that came out very common on K12 Tech Pro as a very common issue for small districts.
Another common complaint that comes up is reps that kind of go around the tech department or tech director and go straight to the board of directors or straight to the superintendent. And you typically see that when your board or superintendent goes to like a retreat conference or something like that. It's even more painful or salt in the wound, however you want to say it, when just a vendor shows up with a plate of cookies at your superintendent's office trying to get a meeting. That will go a long distance into getting banned from a call list or from a do business list, because that's not how you start a relationship or get your foot in the door with an IT department.
Yeah, and that's definitely, it does still happen at the large district level, but like I said, companies are much more prone to nurturing that relationship with the CIO, and they're less likely to kind of go around them and go to the superintendent directly. But yeah, it still does happen, and it's still just as frustrating.
Yeah. The next big thing that small districts have issues with or complain about pricing. And, you always have those vendors that have that tiered pricing model where, students or districts with up to 4,000 students, you have this price. And from 4,000 to 10,000, you get a little bit shaved off your pricing, and, it goes up and up and up. While I understand, because there's always overhead, if it's a database instance or whatever, there's overhead associated with every new client that you bring on, and you have to recoup those costs. I understand that. It just gets unfortunate and frustrating at times when you see that big discount for, the mega districts. While they're still paying a chunk of money, their per student pupil cost is much lower.
Yeah, that's definitely the most common thing. I think it's well known within the industry that the larger the district, the more the per pupil student pricing is. I can see why it's challenging for small districts to see such a disparity in that. But I think what aggravates it more is that that small districts mentioned a few times that they know that the bigger districts are also getting more personalized support. And so for them to pay a lower cost per student and get better support is challenging for small districts.
Yeah. one of the other complaints was companies that don't list pricing on their website. So you have to establish that phone call or email with a sales rep, and that's, you know, in a small district where you're wearing 1,000 hats and you're doing 1,500 different things in a day's time. You don't want to burn that time, that precious time, chatting it up, that get to know you phone call from a salesperson just to get pricing. It makes it much easier when they have at least MSRP or some sort of standardized pricing on their website. That way you can tell quickly, am I moving on to another product, or am I going to stick it out with this company?
Yeah, somebody had a direct quote from that was like, in most small districts, I wear all the hats here: network, sysadmin, level 1 tech repairs, consulting the boards and admin teams, explaining to teachers why they cannot insert cybersecurity issue here, policy writing grants, and keeps going on and on and on. And so I don't have time for just sit down for a 30 to 60 minute demonstration just to find out that I can't afford the product in the first place. So yeah, that's a gripe across all districts, but at the smaller district level, that was a very, very common thread around, please let me know before I engage with you if this is something I can even afford in the first place, because I just don't have the time. And time was a very, very common theme across small districts.
Chris, since you are back, it appears you're back. Do you want to hit a couple sponsors real quick before you drop? Yeah, you got to unmute yourself. You're muted. Now you're unmuted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
2 sponsors, and then I think I'm getting out of here because this is a lot. My home internet is down, and then I tried the hotspot. And then Fortinet keeps messing with me. And this.
Have you tried rebooting?
Yeah, I did. Fortinet. I did. Anyway, Managed Methods. Check out managedmethods.com. And also Fortinet. Email fortinetpodcast@fortinet.com. That's all I got. You guys keep.
Your internet's really out?
Yes. I just yelled down the steps to Stephanie, and she's like, yeah, it's not been working for several minutes.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
Thank you, Fortinet. Thank you.
We're gonna get to the bottom of this Fortinet thing. Like, I don't know that I like this. Final category: support. Chris, do you
No, I don't. I'm afraid to speak.
Go ahead. You're on par right now.
I don't have the document open. I rebooted my computer. I have no idea what you guys are even talking about. I've only been here for like 3 minutes total on this whole episode.
I don't think so.
Good one, Kate. So the last category, at least I hope it's the last category.
Good luck. Good luck editing this, Mark. It's insane.
Support. Districts just want personal support. Smaller districts working with smaller companies, because they can talk to the same person over and over again. It's funny. I had a couple conversations about PDS at Midwest Tech Talk, and that's one of the things that I really, really like about PDS. I know if I have a problem, I'm going to be working with Derek or Jeff. And I know those guys are solid guys. They know what they're doing. They can address my problems. So it's nice having that established relationship with a small support company, and knowing you can pick up the phone and call them, and they're actually going to pick up the phone and help you.
Yeah, I saw multiple times on the thread people liked smaller companies. It's interesting, though, because at the big districts, we don't touch small companies.
Really?
It's a danger to go to a small company that may or may not be able to handle
support.
Your complexity and needs. So we really err on the side of caution and typically go for the larger companies, whereas the small districts really like small companies because they get that personalized attention.
That's an interesting thought.
One of the quotes that I thought was great was, I wish more companies would empower their sales staff to know how to handle tier 1 support issues. Having to contact a support line and schedule an introductory call or discovery call with support just to find out it was an issue during implementation or a checkbox that was missed is frustrating. So I thought that was a great suggestion is, can you have your sales reps or maybe your tier 1 support have a greater level of technical knowledge of the product, and give a better handoff from implementation over to support? That would really make a lot of small districts' lives a lot better because they're not waiting for issues as much. And again, you get to generate that personalized relationship with that person.
Yeah, those are all really good observations there. it would be interesting for salespeople to have more training in tier 1 support, like you said, or the implementation folks having a little bit more robust training to make sure that those check boxes don't get missed, or, things like that. And Chris has dropped again. This has been a show, man. Do you want to do the last one?
Yeah, the last one is something I've said a lot to different ed tech companies and vendors, and this goes for all districts, but it was very prevalent for the smaller districts, that districts lean heavily on a recommendation from their peers. And I saw that a lot this weekend at Midwest Tech Talk. Chris even built that into the conference, where as you visit a vendor in the vendor showcase area, you can see a list of your peer districts at that conference who use that same product. At the big district level, we absolutely talk with each other and we'll get recommendations, but we know we're going to have, maybe if it's a national company, we're going to have a different arm or a different rep for each other. So we're looking at more of a global recommendation. Small districts, you're jumping on the phone with each other, you're chatting. Hey, do you know this guy? Do you know this company? What do you think? And that recommendation goes so much farther than anything else. So building relationships with your districts so they can do the talking for you was, I thought, the most important at the small district level.
Yeah. And, that was one of the tenets that we started Midwest Tech Talk with, was if a vendor is going to be there, that vendor has to be like a school district has to nominate that vendor as to be invited to be a vendor at the conference.
Oh, that's interesting.
So immediately, every vendor that is in that vendor space was recommended by at least one school district. So the idea behind that was to kind of cut out some of the fly-by-nightiness of some companies. So yeah, every one of those vendors has done business with a school district that was in attendance there. So that kind of elevated that credibility behind that vendor room.
Very cool.
But absolutely, small districts want to know what resources work, what resources don't work, and because again, time is short in a small district. If I got to handhold an implementation process, that's something else I'm not doing. Whereas if I've got a vendor that has a similar product that we can do implementation in a 10-minute phone call and be done, move on, we're using the product. Hot dog, man. I'm all in on that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Any closing thoughts before we wrap this up, Kate? I guess.
Nope.
Okay. So yeah, this was an episode. Hopefully next week is better. Chris doesn't have internet, so I think he was on his phone. We'll blame that for now. I think he needed to reboot his computer too. Shoot us an email if you have any feedback on what we've talked about tonight about working with small districts, working with support companies or sales processes. If you have any comments, get over on Pro, make a comment, shoot us an email, k12techtalk@gmail.com. Share us with your friends. Maybe not this episode. We will, if you're looking for a conference speaking group, shoot us an email, invite us out, see where we can help you out and deliver some good content. We'll hope to see you next week. See you later.
We might not be the same. You share the same pain that I do.
The views and opinions expressed on the K-12 Tech Talk podcast are the personal opinions of Josh, Chris, and Mark, and do not represent the views or opinions of our sponsors or other organizations that we're affiliated with. The material and information presented here is for general information and entertainment purposes only. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
We were buying words about the phrase of the way. In sailing songs just